Hi everyone, my name's Matt. I'm from B Sharp Tech. Today we'll be doing some live website reviews. B Sharp Tech is a digital website design, hosting, support, and digital marketing agency. I'm founder and director. You can find us at bsharptech.com.au. You can also book in for a discovery session. I've put the link at the bottom. It's bsharp.au/discover. So if you've got a website that needs reviewing, please let us know in the comments. I've got a feed of comments here. If you're viewing this on YouTube, you just go into the YouTube and add in the comments. And if you're viewing this on Facebook, you can do the same. So there's a few aspects of websites that I'll be reviewing. One, the design aspects of the sites. What's above the fold, what's below the fold, whether the site conveys to, I guess, the customer avatar, which will be me in this case, what the business is about. And I'll be looking for things like call to actions and etc. etc. I do have a couple of websites that I have already. I just got some brochures out of my letterbox here, and I've got a few websites ready to go in case we don't have any. So web design is one aspect. Another aspect I look at, which is really important for ranking these days, is performance. So Google now takes into consideration performance of a website. And when I say performance, that means how fast does your website load? How long does it take for the content to be shown on the screen for the user? And that can be whether it's on desktop or mobiles. And I've got some tools that I'll use to show you how to scan your website to test that. Obviously, the better that your website performs, the higher you could potentially push your rankings up. Okay, so it is one factor that Google looks at. It never used to be, but I think Google's it changed the rules in the last couple of years, and performance is now very much at the forefront of making sure that you rank well. Another aspect I look at is whether sites have analytics. Google Analytics I consider to be fundamental to a website to understand what's going on. There are other tools available, but generally speaking, Google Analytics is fairly foundational. And I'll talk a little bit about Google Search Console as well. And I may also touch on some search engine optimization as well. So commonly referred to as SEO. Search engine optimization is all about making sure your website ranks well, mainly on Google these days, but because Google owns most of the search market. But there are various aspects of a website that needs to be in place in order to rank really well. So look, if you've just joined us, if you've got a website that you would like to be considered for review today, all you need to do is add your website to the comments. Obviously, if there's lots and lots of websites there, we won't get to all of them. I'll probably be online for about an hour, just over an hour today. And I've got a bit of a cold, so I apologize if I'm a bit croaky. I might have to grab some water every now and again. But bear with me as I work through this. Hopefully I'll still have a voice at the end of it. Likewise, if you like some of the things that we're doing here and you like to, discuss your website further, you can book in a free discovery call. There's a link at the bottom. It's running in the ticket at the bottom here, bsharp.au/discover. If you go there, that'll end up on our website and you can directly book a time in our calendar to have a discussion in further detail about what we can do for you. Okay, so I'll get started. I'll just check the comments, see if we've got any. We haven't got any yet, so I might start with with a local one. Now I just got a brochure in my mail for Redback Pest Control. So I might have a look at their website. So I'll just bring it up. Just give me a second. All right. So this is a local website, and I'll make myself a bit smaller. So the first thing I notice is, the first thing I think of when I look at a website is, does the website, when I load it, immediately convey what they do? And I think they do. I mean, you can't miss the Redback here. First comment though is accessibility, right? People need to be able to read the text. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have to highlight that text before I can see it. So often when you're doing pictures in the background of elements on websites, it's really important that you use a font color that's in contrast with the image. So if you've got a darker image, you can use a lighter color, for example, the white there. And I probably recommend that they probably look at a white color here. The other thing I usually don't recommend is having these sliders. Now, the reason being is sliders are notorious for affecting the performance of a page. They can slow down the page loading quite substantially. Usually, most sliders use JavaScript and other complicated pieces of code, and those things can contribute to slowing down your page. So yeah, again, in this case, this second slide here, this text is, you can read it, but it could be a lot better if it was, a different color. The other thing you can do on some of these images is actually put like a dark screen on it, so that the text does stick out, but you'd need to make the text white in this case. Another thing I like to see above the fold, and when I say above the fold, this is the fold down here. It's kind of an imaginary line that's, the first thing you see here is everything above the fold, right? As you scroll down, that's everything below the fold, right? So when we're above the fold on this first page, the first thing I like to see is that there is some kind of clear call to action. And in this case, there is. So they've done a good job here. They've got clear call to actions: request a quote, book online, contact us. They've even got request booking, request quote here. So it's repeated. There's lots of information here on what to do, which is really good. Okay. As I scroll down, the other thing I look for, especially on a home page, and look, it could be on any landing page, is some kind of there's that cold, some kind of proof or some kind of testimonial on how, from your clients, right? So in this case, I do get a mention here that they've got 30 plus years of business with 5-star reviews. It would be better if I could actually see the reviews. Now, they might have it further down on the page. There are some here. Yeah, and so this is, proof is definitely, this is what we call social proof, right? This is, people love to see reviews. So this is good to have reviews like this. I would probably have a look to see whether you need a slider for this. It might be better if you not have a slider, but you can use a slider if you want. It's personal choice. If you've got something like a WordPress site, I'm not sure if this is WordPress. I'll just have a look. You can usually tell if you go to WP admin. No, it's not a WordPress site, or if it is, it's protected. You can get plugins that can download the Google reviews. Now, what I recommend, if you've got a website, always try and have a Google business listing as well. Obviously, this is a very location-based very, these people are, it's like a trade, right? So this is really important to have. So if I look up Redback Pest Control Sydney, I should be able to easily find it. And I might just do that. Pest Control Sydney. Yeah, so here it is here. They're in Narellan. I'm in Harrington Park, so they're close to me, so they're local. Another thing I highly recommend you do is outside of your website. Okay. Now, I know this is outside of your website, but this helps drive traffic into your website, right? Is to try and get as many Google reviews as you can. Okay. The more Google reviews you have, the more Google is going to consider you as a reputable business, and the more they're going to people are going to find you in local search, which means people are going to be able to tick on this button here and get back to your website, and it's going to build more traffic. It's going to build more work and potentially bring you more leads. Okay, so the website and the Google business listing sort of go hand in hand, in my opinion. It's also good here. There's quite a lot of scope here to use, and you can see here from the description they've used theirs to use some keywords in here, and this is where your SEO comes into play. Think about what keywords your customer avatar, or what topics your customer avatar will ultimately be searching, and come up with a description. I think you've got about 700 characters to use within the Google business profile. So in this case, I would recommend the Redback Pest Control actually increase the size of this description here and try and put as much description as they can. Those keywords are not ignored by Google, and it can bring considerable traffic. Again, if you can get as many reviews as you can, it helps to rank you higher. Okay, especially the case, people won't necessarily know your brand, so they're not going to necessarily put Redback Pest Control Sydney in. All right, what they're going to do is they're going to go to somewhere like Google Maps, and without giving away where I live, sorry, and they're going to look for pest control. All right, and so you're competing. Now, luckily for these guys, they're actually coming up second, which is really good. Now you're competing with all the other people that are coming up on this listing here, right? So you can see here, this one's a sponsored. That means this person's actually paying for this ad to be at the top. All right, and you can use something like Google, Google Ads to pay for that. But they're doing pretty well because they're up here. They're on second listing. But the more reviews you get, the more competitive you're going to be to all these other people here. And people will look at reviews. Okay, they will click on your profile and they will go through here and they will look for reviews. Okay. Another thing too with the reviews is responding to them. It looks like they've done a really good job in responding to them. Try and respond to everyone. And your reviews can be, your response, can be an opportunity for you to talk about your business and services as well. If someone says, "Oh, great job spraying my house," you can say, "Thank you very much. We offer, all sorts of services to spray your house," and you can have quite long replies. Now, these guys have got long replies, but you could go even longer. It's an opportunity to kind of market yourself within the response. Now, some people might say, "What happens if I get negative reviews?" Look, if you get enough reviews, if you're getting lots and lots of reviews all the time, hopefully if you do get one or two negative reviews, they kind of get drowned out and you end up with, say, 4.8 anyway. Anything above 4 is pretty good. And the other thing too is if you do get a negative review, reply to it and give a positive answer. I'm sorry that you had a bad experience. We would like to talk to you, further about improving your experience, etc. Right? So a lot of people will look at negative reviews and they want to see that positive response from the provider. Okay, so don't be turned off. Don't think that just because you're asking for reviews, you're always going to get negative reviews. If you do get a negative review, it's an opportunity to learn and to improve, and to do better next time, I guess. Okay. So anyway, so I guess what I'm trying to say is have the website, but also think about your Google business profile as well. In this case, with this Redback Pest Control, they have done that. It's not too bad. Your website too is an opportunity to talk about what you offer, what your offer is. So in this case, they've got quite a substantial amount of content here talking about, it looks like they've got a landing page for just about every kind of pest issue that you could have, which is really good. And they've also got a landing page for multiple location. So I can click on any of those, and they've customized those pages for each of those. Now, the only thing I'd mention is if you're going to do something like that, you need to try and make this content for each of those location pages as unique as you can. Google will, when they index your site and crawl your site, it will notice if you've got a lot of repetitive content, and it will simply not rank or not index some of these pages that have too much repetitiveness. So if you need to try and get as much localization of that page as possible to try and avoid that problem. But it can, this can be a good option to help drive traffic using keywords that are local based. So if people are looking for termite control in Bankstown, in this case, they've got a lovely web page. Now, if you want to know, is this page actually ranked? And this is talking a little bit about SEO now. There's a couple of ways of doing it. There are some advanced tools called SEMrush that we use in our business, etc. I'm not going to use those tools because I want to make this live stream easy for people to be able to do this on their own if they want to, right? But probably the easiest way is if you go to Google and you just put the word site and put colon and just put the URL that you're interested in, it'll tell you whether it's in its index. Okay, in this case, I can't find any mention of that particular URL. Now, if I just remove that and just put the home page, we'll get everything that has that structure in it. So anything that's used on Redback Pest Control, sydney.com.au. Okay, so you can see here. And this gives you an idea of what your listing looks like as well. So you'll notice here, Redback Pest Control, Pipe, Sydney Pipe, Pest Control Services, right? So that information that's used there for the listing is essentially the if you go back to the home page here, essentially this little title tag that's used here. Okay, Google reads the title tag, and if you look underneath the actual code itself, and I know most people wouldn't look at this, if you look within the head here, you'll find something called a title. Might be better off searching it. There we are, title. So there's a title tag. Okay, it's really important that you have this title tag defined. Okay, search engines will look at this title tag. Now, this particular customer look like they're using Rank Math Pro. Rank Math Pro, which means they are actually using WordPress. Rank Math Pro is a really good tool to help with search engine optimization. Okay, it makes sure that you've got things like title tags. And the other thing is the meta description. So if you go back to the listing here, this little part here is the meta description of the listing. Okay, so in this case, they've defined the meta description. Now, if you don't define these elements, Google's left to kind of guess. Okay, now most website systems will at least have the title, but people often neglect to put in a meta description, and the meta description is really important because it controls what your listing actually looks like, what information that you're actually presenting to the customers, to see, to the customers, so they can understand what you do. Okay. So you've got about 160 characters to play with there. It's an opportunity for you to improve your ranking and listing, and to improve the quality of your index. Okay, you'll see a lot here. See, some of these are actually truncated because they're too long. Okay. Phone numbers are great because people can see that sort of stuff. But generally speaking, they're not doing a terrible job here. They're doing quite a good job. It's good to have your brand in here. Redback Pest Control Sydney is the name of the brand, and some information about what that page is about. Okay. Now, if you want to go further and understand your ranking positions and how Google is treating your indexation, you'll notice at the top here it said try Google Search Console. Now, I don't have access to Google Search Console for this particular customer, but I do have access to my own website. This is what Google Search Console looks like. It gives you the opportunity to understand how Google is indexing your site. Okay, so in this case, if I look at pages, I can see, there's 349 pages on my particular website. So this is bsharptech.com.au that are ranked, and you can see the number of pages that are ranked is actually increasing over time. So we've been running a lot of blog content, and over time we've been getting more and more ranking for that. But I can also see what is not indexed. Okay. And it gives reasons for it. So I can turn that off, and I can see actually we've had an increase in stuff that's not indexed. Now, sometimes this is normal. Sometimes you have legitimate content that you've written that Google has discovered, particularly this bit, it's discovered but hasn't indexed yet for various reasons. Now, if I look at ours there, actually ours has been improving since January. So this tool is great to understand how well Google is indexing you. And because Google owns most of the search market, it's a really, really good tool. Okay, here's an example. We've got an article here which talks about what is A/B testing. Now, if I have a look at that particular piece, yeah. So the first comment I have about this, there's no picture. And this is my own content, right? I'm criticizing now. There's no picture. There's very little information in here. Okay. If you're going to write an article, all right, and this is obviously, I even look at myself sometimes and think, why did we bother having this content? But if you're going to write something like this, you're best off getting at least 600 words or more. Get as much detail in there, put a featured picture on this, etc. So this becomes a lot more content rich, all right? And this information becomes, Google will look at that. It'll look at the quality, and it'll look at your linking to other platforms, etc. So it can understand whether this is a quality piece of, content. All right. So just moving back to the indexation here. Another thing this thing is good to use for the Google Search Console is for sitemaps. It's always advisable. Most website tools, whether it be WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or Shopify or any of those tools, right, create what they call a site index. So it's always good to configure Google Search Console and list your site map index here. Okay, so the Redback Pest Control example here, if I go back there, they're using Rank Math Pro, so they've probably got a sitemap. I will have a guess. There it is there. So this is really good for Google because it helps Google to understand what's changed on your website. Okay, so if you don't have a sitemap, definitely talk to your web developer about a sitemap if you want it. I've got a question. Had a few questions. I had a question here from Jarizi Photography. I have a quick question regarding the meta page title. I'll just show the question. And meta description setup. Should we configure these before pushing the site live? As soon as your site is live, okay, Google's able to index it. All right. Now, not immediately, because Google's got to find it, and if you haven't set up Search Console, it's it probably doesn't know about it yet until someone's linked to it, right? Once you set up Search Console and you put things like your sitemap in, like I was demonstrating just a second ago, Google will start indexing your site. And the moment it starts indexing it, it's going to look at those title and meta descriptions. So I would argue that, yes, if you're building a new site or you're building a new piece of content, you probably should have the title and the meta description as a minimum setup. Okay. So yes, to your answer. Try and do it before going live. Now, having said that, right, content does change, right? I mean, if I change this content here, right, Google, my site index will tell Google that it's changed, right? And hopefully, we'd improve this piece of content, right? And then Google's eventually going to pick up through the site map here that it's changed, right? Now, I could change the meta description then, and Google will eventually take that into consideration and change the meta description on its index. Okay. So just because you set it as something doesn't mean you can't improve it or modify it on an ongoing basis. Another tip that Neil Patel actually promoted on a video that I saw recently, and Neil Patel is one of the foremost SEO experts, is to try and try. I'll just hide that comment for a second. Is once you do a change to a piece of content, go back to Search Console and inspect that piece of content and actually request the indexing for that piece of content. So if I was to change this piece of content, so I'll just copy that URL and I go back to the, sorry, wrong page. Back here, you've got this little inspection tool here. So we can put it in here. Now, I'm doing it on my website because I have Search Console set up for my website. Obviously, if you were to do it for yourself, you'd have your own website. So you can have a look. So I can see the URLs not in Google for various reasons. Now, Google might tell you there may be technical reasons why. In this case, it's just said it's discovered it, but it hasn't indexed it. I guarantee you it's because of the quality of the content here. Okay. But I can, if I improve the quality, I can come in here and there's a little button here called request indexing. And I can have it request. Another button here you got is test live URL. So if you do have some errors and you want to test it and make sure that it's working, you can press test live URL. Okay. And we just have to wait a minute or two. Okay, and this basically tells you, see, I can see straight away, Google has actually crawled it. It's live to Google. There's no reason why Google can't look at it, right? But for whatever, there's probably various reasons for why it hasn't bothered to index it, right? And you can have a look down here. Able to crawl, page was fetched successfully, index is allowed. All right, so just because Google can find something doesn't mean it's going to index it, okay? Usually the reason why it doesn't index it is it's poor performing, the content quality is low, or it is duplicate content already found somewhere else on the internet or on your own website, okay? So Google's looking for quality content that's original, unique, and adds value to the user experience, right? If you don't have that, then it can, it can basically just ignore that page, right? and doesn't discover. So have Google, I highly recommend having Google Search Console. I know I'm banging on about it, just so that you can understand what's going on with your indexation, okay? And you want to be seeing, especially if you're building blog content, and I highly recommend you do build blog content, but as time goes on, you want to be seeing this number of index pages going up, okay? So if you're building unique content that serves your customer avatar well, that's of high quality, that's 600 words or more, with pictures, graphs, whatever you can to put in there, etc., it should be going up, okay? And that is going to help contribute to building more traffic for your site, okay? You need to be, so some people ask me, what kind of blog articles should you write? You should be writing content around your particular industry, okay? Now, a lot of people are always asking me, you know, can you give me some ideas of what kind of content to write? So if you go back to this Redback pest control, so this is the pest control industry, right? There's a really easy way to work out what to look for. So if you're someone looking for pest control, you're probably, you know, you might not be brand aware at this point, but you're going to put pest control in, right? Okay. And Google will give you all these, you know, sponsored links first. So anything that says sponsored is pretty much people that have paid to be ranked for those keywords, right? So they're the ones with the ads, right? But there's another interesting little section down here, right, which talks about the kind of topics and questions that people ask, right? And I have to say to people, have a look at this, because this is invaluable to understanding what kind of content you should be writing for your avatar, all right? So people want to know, how much does pest control cost? How often should I pest control my house, right? All these sort of things, all right? If you click on these, you'll notice there's people that have ranked, you know, Google recommends these articles for those particular answers to those questions. Another thing you'll note too, as you click on these things and expand them, Google actually gives you more and more. All right, so if I click on who pays for pest control in New South Wales, or how much does a pest inspection cost in New South Wales, how to get rid of rats in this case, does tenant pay for pest control in New South Wales? All right, notice that the other thing Google does too is it localizes this search, right? So because it knows I'm in New South Wales, in fact, it knows I'm in Harrington Park, all right, it's localized these ads and this directory listing, right, and even these questions to be based around these particular New South Wales. I apologize for my cold. And actually, I might just grab a quick drink. Anyway, yeah, so these can be potentially blog topics that you could answer. And look, some of them may not be appropriate, but you know, it gives you some ideas on what content you should be writing. Okay, on this particular site, they've got quite a lot of content in terms of their you know, landing pages. It's great that they've got lots of landing pages. All right, so if I go to any of these, termite monitoring, well, okay, that's not good. You should, if they've got Rank Math Pro, I highly recommend they look at they turn on their 404 monitoring. So what a 404 page is it's the standard page that gets thrown up to the user if something on the site cannot be found. All right, so in this case, that page is not found. So I'll just check. So there are tools that you can get. We use SEMrush to scan sites regularly. And it actually tells us about 404s or broken links. If you've got lots of broken links on your website, it can indicate to Google that you are not maintaining your website. And if you're not maintaining your website, it sends a signal that the content and the quality of your website may not be as high as other websites that are well maintained. So I highly recommend you use a tool like SEMrush to scan for that kind of problem because it can affect your SEO. Okay. And look, if you do have particular landing page, etc., I always recommend at least 600 words or more if you can. In this case, they look like they're doing a really good job for this particular piece. Blog content, I can't see any blog content on here, but blog content too can help you write about all sorts of different topics, etc. So look, if you've just joined us, if you want to have your website reviewed, please let us know in the comments. Just type your comment into either YouTube or Facebook where we're going live, and I'll consider it. If you've just got a question, you can pop a question in to the comments there. Likewise, if you want to talk further about your website and you need some help, and we obviously offer services in this area, you can book your free discovery call if you go to BSharpTech or bsharp.au/discover, and it's rolling on the bottom of the screen here. We can book in a session with you, and we can go through your website in more detail. On my website here, you'll find a button here called Book a Discovery Call. That will open up a little booking thing here, and it's linked to our calendar, and we can book in a time. Those sessions are run by me at the moment, so you'll get me. So if you're interested, please feel free to book in for a session. If you just want your website reviewed as part of this session, feel free to put it in the comments. So I'm just going to move back to that pest control website. Another aspect that I haven't spoken about yet, well, I've mentioned, but we haven't actually tested, is performance. So Google does consider performance when it ranks web pages. Okay. So there is a tool I like to use, and I think I ran this one already, called GTmetrix. Okay, and I actually have run it already. So in this case, and actually, you know what I'll do is I'll start from scratch so you can see the process. So all you got to do is go to gtmetrix.com. I do have a paid account, but you can do this for free under a free account. You want to put your URL in there, and you want to choose, if you, in this one, I'm going to assume that they've got Australian web presence. So we're going to test in Australia, so in Sydney, Australia, and you just press analyze. And what that'll do is it'll go off and it will scan the website, and it will look for all sorts of things. So we'll just give it a few seconds to run. I'll just take a drink. And if you are Redback Pest Control, I apologize if you found any of this confronting, but that's what you get for putting a brochure in my my letterbox. Anyone that puts a brochure in my letterbox is going to get reviewed. I think it's only fair, don't you think? Anyway, they get a B, not terrible. Okay. One of the things we want to look at is having this largest contentful paint. So if you hover your little mouse over there, largest contentful paint measures how long it takes for the largest content element. Okay, so that's the top part of your page, right, to be presented for the on the visitor's viewpoint. All right. So you want to aim. This says you want to be 1.2 seconds or less. I always say about 1 second or less. They're getting theirs loaded in less than a second at the moment. It's 0.6 of a second. So it's not that bad. You'll see the little visualization down here. You can see that's 1.1. It's 100 milliseconds. It's 200 milli, 400, 500, 600. So by about 1 second, we're here. All right. I kind of argue, though, you'll notice, remember how I said at the beginning, if you joined us first up, I don't really like sliders. You can see the slider, it hasn't even loaded here. It's probably still working in the background. This is this bit here. You want to try and load everything above the fold if you can within a second. Okay, so I would recommend having a look at this particular banner, seeing if you can just produce one simple banner. This one doesn't seem to auto scroll. I'll just refresh. So if it doesn't auto scroll, most users might not even realize that there's a second thing there anyway, a second picture and more details. So you might be better off just having a single banner there rather than this big slider. For some reason, a lot of people like sliders, a lot of my clients do, but as a web designer, we hate them. Okay, they don't perform well. They're hard to execute, and this is a perfect example here. They don't paint quick enough. Okay, they're just they're sitting in the background there, and they have to load all those images. So instead of loading one image, you got to load 3 or 4, 5, 6, depending on how many slides you've got, images before the thing actually shows up properly. All right, so I kind of don't recommend sliders if you can avoid them. If you want to use them below the fold, that's probably okay, because everything below the fold has more time to load. Okay, and you can use things like lazy image loading. So lazy image loading means that you basically tell the browser a particular image, right? And this is for content under the fold, not above the fold. Content under the fold, you can lazy load, right? And you can say this particular image, lazy load it, which means load it. Don't stop the rest of the page from loading because you're waiting for that particular image. Okay. Now, all this might sound strange, but remember, you got to remember, not everyone is coming to you from a high-speed internet connection, right? Now, I've got a gigabit connection at home, right? There'll be lots of people coming at you in fringe reception areas on their mobile phone, right? And we'll look at mobile responsiveness in a second, right? And they are, they're not going to wait, right? If they're sitting there and they're going, oh, this is 2 seconds, 3 seconds, they've already gone back to Maps or wherever they did their search and just clicked on the next one, right? And you've lost the opportunity to grab that customer, right? They just bounce straight away. Okay, so you want to be aiming for A here. Now, the good thing about this tool, right, is it does give you some information here to help you understand what's going on. Okay, so the good news here is they haven't got anything with high impact, but they've got some things that they can look at. Now, these are really technical, so I'm not going to go through them now, but you should be working with your website developer or website whoever maintains and supports your website to look at trying to get an A rating here. Okay. Now, if you go down a bit further too, there's a little page details. It gives you an idea of what elements are the largest elements on your site. So in their case, images. Now, I guarantee you it's because some of these images are quite large. Okay. And things like, and this is another example, right? If you've got a slider and it's got lots of large images, it's got to load all those large images in the background in order to show the slider. So it can add up considerably. Okay. If you're on WordPress, excuse me, if you're on WordPress and this customer is, or this person is, you can use tools like WP Rocket. That's one that I use. It can help to optimize some of these things to improve performance. All my customers get a copy of WP Rocket. So if you want to become one of my customers, you get this one for free. And it can be used to improve the performance as well. If you're on Shopify, there are other apps available to help your Shopify experience. And some of the others like Wix and Foursquare, etc., it might come down to how you've actually implemented the website itself. Okay. So that's probably it for performance. Another thing too is mentioned here is content delivery network. So a lot of hosting providers now, and our hosting provider provides it as well. So we have a content delivery framework, uses a thing called a content delivery network. And what a content delivery network is, and you can actually click on here and it gives you information about it. It can improve your site performance across global regions. So this is particularly useful if you've got a global audience that you're pitching to. if you've, it's very hard because usually the speed at which your website loads is based on what location it is. So if you've got your audience in Australia, and I imagine this person here is in New Orleans, so they're going to be Sydney, right? They're pest control, they're called Redback Pest Control Sydney. So they're just really Sydney. So they would want to have their server in Sydney, right? Now, the reason why that's important is because you do get latency connecting to a server if it's located on the other side of the planet, believe it or not. Okay, even though you got fiber optics, etc., it still can slow down the user experience if you're using a hosting provider that's not in your local area. However, you can get around it a little bit by using what they call a content delivery network. So a content delivery network basically caches a copy of your website in points of location all around the world. Okay. You can use things like Cloudflare, or I think Google, or even Amazon and Azure has probably got it as well, to provide content delivery networks. In this case, this is a WordPress website. We use Kinsta for our WordPress, and they use Cloudflare, and it has points of presence all around the world, and you get CDN as part of that offering. CDN is really helpful. So in this case, it's actually telling us with this report that there are some resources that are not using a CDN. They're not cached on a CDN. In other words, you've got to go and get them every time from the server wherever you are. So if you can cache some of these resources, it can make a big difference. I would argue that just using a CDN alone for this, or tuning the CDN if they've got one and they haven't tuned it, could bring them back up to an A. Okay. So that's probably performance done to death. So if you've just joined us, my name's Matt. I'm from B Sharp Tech, and I'm doing live website reviews. I've just reviewed a website called Redback Pest Control, which is a local pest control provider in my area, and given them some tips. We've talked about indexation and using Google Search Console. We've talked about the importance of having a Google My Business listing and linking that to help you build traffic on your website. We've also talked about quality of content. I used an article of my own as an example of poor quality, and we talked about indexation. The other one aspect I probably didn't cover, which I'll just cover quickly, is all websites should have, and I'm going to use this little assistant here to have a look, and they've got it. You should always make sure you've got a Google site tag set up, and you set up a thing called Google Analytics, and they will have, it looks like they've got their Google Analytics set up. Excuse me. The reason why that's really important is, yes, you can build a website. Yes, you can get traffic to it. But then you really need to understand what the hell's going on? Where's that traffic coming from? You need to track and understand, some information about the users coming to that site. Okay. So when we were talking about Google Search Console, we're only talking about indexation, right? What is being indexed on the site, right? When we're talking about Google Analytics, we're talking about understanding who's actually visiting the site. Okay. So it's one thing to be indexed, right? You can have an index on Google, but that doesn't mean someone's going to click on it and visit, right? So this information here is really useful to understand what are people actually doing on the site. Where are they come from? Who are they? And you can start to collect some information. The other reason why I recommend doing this, right, is if you want to do things like Google Ads later on, if you've started to collect some information here, you can plug Google Analytics into the ads platform, and you can start to do things like remarketing on some of this data, right? So I'm just looking at my profile. Obviously, I don't have access to the Redback Pest Control because this is my private data. But I've nothing to be ashamed of here. But when you log into, and if you don't have analytics, just go to analytics.google.com. It's a free tool. It doesn't cost anything. You can see here, I can see straight away over the last 30 days, the number of users that have come to my site has increased by 6.1%. So that's good, right? But better than that, I can look at longer periods. And sorry, my phone's ringing. I should have put my phone on do not disturb. I can look at longer periods of time if I want to, depending on how much data I've collected. Okay, so I can see over the last 90 days, my traffic's actually improved by 63%, which is great. So you can see I'm in an upwards trajectory, which is great. But I can do more than that. I can break out some of these reports, and you can set up some of these reports, or if you need help setting it up, you can hire someone like me. And if you do want to talk a bit further about some of these tools and understand them, you can book in for a free discovery call. There's a link at the bottom, bsharp.au/discover, and we can have a talk about it. But I can say something like acquisition, traffic acquisition, and I can have a look, and I can see now that, because there's lots of different places that traffic comes from. So organic search is basically coming from search engines. So you can see straight away, most of my traffic is coming from search engines. Okay. Now that might help me make decisions about what I do with my business, right? Do I want to spend more time doing organic search? I might argue it's doing really well, so maybe I just keep doing what I'm doing. But I might want to think about whether I want to increase my spend on the paid search. All right, this is your Google Ads, because that's not necessarily producing the kind of traffic that I wanted. At the moment, I don't really have my ads dialed up that much. So this is pretty typical for me. Display is display ads as well. So these two combined are basically your ads. Direct traffic. If you look at direct is people who are coming directly to your site. They're usually brand aware. And so, if they already know who you are, they'll just put the website straight into the box, into the URL thing in their browser and goes straight to the website. So this can be a good indication of how good you're getting your brand out there. So it's good to me that I know that, lots of people are finding me directly. And referral are people, usually it's links on other site coming back to your site. So if you're building lots and lots of content over time, more and more people might link to that, which will help your organic listing, but it will also help, push more referral people to your site. So Google Analytics, I can highly recommend setting this up on your website. If you don't already, get it set up, get it configured by your website developer or website professional, so that you can start gathering some data and some statistics. It gets even better, right? Like if you've got an e-commerce site, like I haven't got any revenue here because I don't directly sell my services on my website. But if you've got an e-commerce site, you can track revenue as well. And so when you get a sale, you can understand how much revenue is attributed to what particular channel. And this is just one example of one report, right? And sorry, you might not be able to see that because I've got this big banner. I'll just turn that one off for a second. Yeah. So, I can see, what are the sessions. You can even look at things like how long are they engaged for, their average engagement time per session and all that sort of information. Okay, and you can even customize some of these reports. Okay. Another thing you can do with the e-commerce side, which I can't demonstrate with mine, is you can look at the customer journey. So a lot of websites will have, they're selling a product, right, directly. And so they will, they'll have so many people visit the site, and then they'll drop off, and then they'll have so many people look at a product and then they'll drop off, and so many people put a product in their cart and then they don't buy, and then so many people get to the checkout and then they don't complete the checkout. So you have like this abandonment rate, and you can look at that using something like Search Console. In fact, I'll have a look and see. If you go here under admin, you can, I don't know if I can do it. No, I don't think I can do it. I'll have to I'll try and demonstrate an e-commerce site at one of my next live sessions, just so you can see that customer journey, and you can start to analyze where we're losing people, right? Where you might be losing people, and that can help you make decisions on how do you improve your website to get a higher conversion rate. Okay. Anyway, I see there's a few more people that have joined us. If you do have a website that you would like me to review, I've been looking at this website for probably an hour now. I've covered lots of aspects, but if you've got a website that you'd like me to review, just pop it in the comments, and I can bring it up and do some live review. Or likewise, if you've got a question about any of the things that I've discussed, let me know, and I'll endeavor to answer it as best I can. All right, so I'm going to move on now. I think I've done this one to death now. I'm going to move on to the next brochure in my letterbox here. Never looked at this website before. And we're just going to have a look at this one. So this one's called Riverview. Riverview at Carrington. Carrington.com.au. Hang on. I might have put the wrong address in. Otherwise, their website doesn't exist, and that's really bad. Riverview at Carrington.com.au. Well, I might not be looking at this one. Assisted living. Nope. Why don't we just do a search? Riverview at Carrington. Riverview at Carrington. Oh, they've got an old site and a new site. Okay. All right. So this looks like I think this is them. So, I mean, my first comment is if you've got a website, obviously they've simplified. Looks like they've just gone with a simplified URL. They're obviously handing out brochures here, but the URL on the brochure doesn't work. So people can't find you if you can't use the URL. If you have a domain and you change it, I highly recommend you get your website developer to redirect it to the new site so that people can still look at an old brochure like this. I don't know how old this is. Actually only been put in my mailbox in the last couple of weeks, and still find you. Okay. Because there's really no excuse for it, right? Like, for example, like I've got bsharptech.com.au, but if you go to bsharp.au, you'll see it goes to the same place. I own the .com, right? And it ends up in the same place, right? So, it's kind of like, I think I own bsharp.au as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, and it ends up in the same place. So you can easily set up a website with multiple different domains and repoint domains to the correct one. So if you've got an old site that you've decommissioned, right? And this one looks very interesting because it looks like they do have an old site that's still being indexed. If I click on that, that one says old, so that one says new. So very confusing for me as a user now, looking to know which one is the right one. All right, I would recommend if this is an old site, and it looks like it might be because it's called old, then you should be using things like Google Index, Google Search Console to remove. You can remove outdated content. Okay, and submit that to be removed. Okay, otherwise it's being indexed. It's going to be found. Google doesn't know that it's old. It just uses the word old and whacks it in there. Okay, so looking at this site, the first thing I always look at is, does the site convey what service or product they're actually offering. I think that does quite well because it says it straight away. The other thing I look at too, and I look at what's above and what's below the fold. So the fold is kind of the imaginary line that runs here. So everything above the fold is the first thing that gets painted on the screen above where you're scrolling. So as you scroll, everything below the fold is this stuff down here, right? So above the fold, the first thing I want to see is some kind of call to action, or you need to be able to tell the user or your custom avatar that, you know, this is what I want you to do on the website. So people come to the website and they've got to kind of be built, like you've got to kind of build a journey for those customers, right? So to me, one criticism of this site is I don't know what to do next. Now, obviously, naturally, I will scroll down and get more information. But see this inquire now? No reason why you couldn't have this a lot further, even put it in the menu here or have some kind of button, etc., to get to the point straight away. And so people know what to do. Okay. So they've got the standard sort of heading. Another thing I haven't mentioned at this call is it's great. You know, everyone thinks their website is very, very different from each other, but actually websites have a similar construct, a similar structure. They usually have the excuse me, usually have the logo at the top left. They have some kind of menu at the top, and they have some social media links, etc., at the top, in a search bar, a banner of some sort, and at the bottom they usually have a footer, right? Usually a copyright, etc. Now, I know it seems boring to have that, and some people say, "Oh, I want something completely different. I want to do something. I want to do a left-hand menu, la la la." But I actually recommend that you don't do that. You do stick with the standard, structure of 98% of the websites out there, because people know what to do when they see a website because they've seen it so many times. If you go and change the format and have something, fancy or something different, they may not understand how to use your site. Okay. So I know from experience that this is likely a menu and I can put my cursor over it, right? But a lot of people will get lost if you try and remove that format. Okay. So that's the first aspect I look at. So I want to have a look here at the SEO a little bit. Okay. So this particular website is about assisted living apartments. So the first thing I'm going to do is just have a look at, and this is a trick that you can do. If you go to any Google, you just go to Google and type the word site : and just put in the web URL. It'll show you. Google will show you what the index actually looks like if it is indexed. So in this case, I found this thing doing a search, so I know it is in there. I can see 2 indexes. So the title tag, this little bit here, is set, and you'll see if I put my cursor over the little tab at the top here, that is the title up here. Okay. You might be thinking, no, this is the title here. No, the title is embedded in the meta description of the page. Okay. So if you go inside the text, and this is how, computers look at your page, you will find a thing called a title, and that is the title right there. Okay. That's really important. You've got control over what your title should be for your website. Okay. You can control that by just changing it on the website. Okay. So the second thing you'll see on a listing is this little bit here. This is the meta description of the page. Okay. A lot of people do not set these meta descriptions. I see a lot of websites not setting these meta descriptions. And what I'll do is I'll just have a quick look and see whether I can see the meta description for this. And it looks like they're using WordPress. I can see that in here. Let's have a look. I'll do a little search for description. And I'm not finding it. So I suspect they don't have a meta description actually set. You usually find it straight under the title tag. Okay, so if you look at, say, my website and go to inspect, and you go to the head section, you'll see how I've got my title there. You'll see this thing here, meta description. So I actually have a meta description for my website. So if you don't put a meta description, you're leaving it up to the Google search robot, the crawler, just to decide what your meta description will be. In most cases, what it does is just grabs the first bit of text that it can find. Okay, so if I have a look at that, let's see if my theory holds up. Review features of rooftop terrace. Let me have a look. Oh no, it hasn't. So it's probably worked it out somehow. Okay, but I guess my point is, it's really important for SEO, search engine optimization, to try and use the meta description as an opportunity to put in the marketing message that you want in your meta description. You've got 160 characters. Now, if you're using WordPress, you should at a minimum be using Yoast, but another one that I highly recommend is Rank Math Pro. If you just go to rankmath.com, all of my customers get a copy of Rank Math Pro. There is a free version as well, but I recommend paying for the paid version if you can, because it's an excellent tool to help you get the right SEO information on your site. Okay, so if you want to get your SEO right, using Rank Math Pro is definitely a good one. If you've got a WordPress, it's only available for WordPress, I think, pretty sure. Yeah, just for WordPress. So that's probably that's one aspect. Another aspect of websites I look at is performance. Okay, so I looked at this one previously, and I use a tool called GTmetrix. So if you've just joined us, you probably missed out on this tool previous. I'm going to go and use GTmetrix here. So if you go to gtmetrix.com, you can put in your URL of what you want to test. And I usually, in this case, it's assisted living in Sydney, so in my local area actually. So I'm just going to make this Sydney. You can make it different areas of the world depending on where you are, but in this case it's Sydney. And you just press analyze, and what that will do is it will go off and it will analyze the performance of that particular website. And we'll just give it a second to come back. Here we go. It takes a few seconds to run these tools. Okay, in this case, they're getting a C. So it's taking almost 3 seconds to get what they call the largest contentful paint. So the largest contentful paint is how long it takes for the largest content element to load on your screen. So you can see here, the largest element they've got is probably this big circular picture, okay? So you can see from this visualization here, it takes almost 1 second to get to the first contentful paint, and it's taken 3 seconds to get to the largest contentful paint. So you need to get this largest contentful paint under a second if you can. I think they recommend 1.2 seconds here for this test, but I always say under a second. So you should be getting to this point up here somewhere, okay? So performance is really, really important, okay? Because it can affect how Google will rank you, okay? The lower your site performs, the lower Google might rank you, okay? It takes into consideration that ranking. It's only one factor, but it's a big factor, okay? I know I've seen websites improve this from a C to an A, and it's significantly improved where they're listed, right? And it's helped drive more traffic and more sales to them, okay? This tool actually gives you an idea of what's taking a long time to load. In this case, this image here, and it'll actually show you which image it's actually taking a long time, is probably the main culprit, right? And it's actually telling you to use something called WP Rocket to help this, okay? I'm just going to have to take a break just for a few seconds, just a convenience break, but I will be back in a second and I will continue talking. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. Just continuing. So this particular website, carringtoncare.com.au, GT Metrics is actually pointing out that this image here is something that we might need to look at. Okay. And look, I find in most cases, it's usually images, JavaScript, and CSS that's causing the main issues. Now, JavaScript is used to show some of the more complex elements on your page. WordPress in particular can be a bit annoying because if you've got plugins, people write plugins to help make, provide certain features on WordPress, but they don't think about optimizing the JavaScript. And they just run that JavaScript on every single page, even though you might only need it on one page. So there are tools that you can use to help improve, the quality of that JavaScript. And you can use things that minify the JavaScript. And one of them is called WP Rocket. So this is WP Rocket here. If you go to wp-rocket.me, you can find it. All my customers, I give a copy of WP Rocket for all the WordPress customers. And it helps the performance of the website immensely. All right. Now, in some cases, you can just install WP Rocket and straight out of the box, you can get an improvement here on your GT Metrics grade from like a C to a B. And you might need a little bit of tweaking of some of the images to get further. Okay, so I'm not going to cover all this in detail, but this is definitely something you can do yourself, and you can have a chat to your website developer about improving this to getting an A, because it does affect your indexation. Okay, if you do not, have consideration for performance, you really are going to affect how well your site's going to index on Google. Okay. So that's probably all I've got time for today. So just reiterating, my name's Matt from B Sharp Tech. Thank you for joining us if you were here live today. I will be doing these sessions regularly. And as we go, I'm hoping to get more and more people involved. So if you missed out on getting reviewed this time, that's fine. Pop in your website in the comments, or feel free just to reach out to us at B Sharp Tech. If you come to our website, there's a contact us form here. Or you can use our little chat link at the bottom here if you want to just drop your details there and send us a message, and we can put it in the queue for review next time. I'm going to be away next week, so probably be 2 weeks before I get a chance to do this again. I am also going to have another session that's going to be talking about how to build a WordPress website from scratch. So I'm literally going to build one step by step from scratch during a live session. If you're interested in that, you can come along and follow along. If you can't make the live session, obviously the recording will be available on YouTube for later viewing. So that one's quite a good session, especially if you want to bootstrap your new business and you want to try your hand at building with WordPress. If you do want to talk further, I've got, you can go to my website and just book in for a discovery call. You can also go to bsharp.au/discover and you'll end up on the same page. I apologize for my cough today. Hopefully I'll be in better health for the next one, but I did manage not to lose my voice. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. I hope you have a great day. Again, please feel free to reach out to me if you need any help with your website. We're here to help. Have a great day. Thank you very much.